Hi, hello, good evening, and a quick drum roll. I have finally finished After We Fell by Anna Todd. Yes, I have read all of these pages. And like I've tried to say, because I ran out of post-its, I ended up folding the pages, which is a really bad habit of mine. Whereas right up until the second book, which was After We Collided, I was still using them. And as you can see, I started using them in After We Fell. So, I haven't really spoken much about this book, even though it's actually the longest in the collection. So what I will do, before I continue reading any of the others, there's 2 more to read. I will go back and explain bits in the book which are, in my opinion, not suitable for young people, and sort of explain the story a little bit more, the backstory, which is basically what this book is about. There are certain things that I feel that maybe Anna Todd could have emphasised more on or talked more about. There's certain things in there about the relationship more of with Tessa and her mother, the relationship with Hardin and his family. And if you've seen the films to any of these books, again, in the UK, unless you've got something like Amazon Prime, you can only watch the first one, which is After, which is currently on Netflix. So I can't really comment about the movies because I've not seen them. I can only comment on the books. So if I talk about anything, it may be a bit of a spoiler alert if you're new to the series, or maybe you've watched the movies but you haven't read the book and maybe you're thinking of doing so. But yeah, so I have finally finished it. I can breathe at last and have a bit of a drink. It is only cranberry juice, so unfortunately I don't drink alcohol. Even though, like most young people, at some point I would have in my life, now that I'm a full-time single mum, it's something I've chosen not to do. But I still love cranberry juice, whether it's, even though it doesn't have the Deserrano in it, or Amaretto. So anyway, and I just want to emphasise that nothing I am actually putting on YouTube is paid. I'm doing it because I love it, because I enjoy it, and it helps a lot with my mental health and well-being. A lot of people, like my friends and family, if they knew what I was reading, like these books, they'd be like, are you insane? Why would you read books when you have a mental health issue that could probably trigger flashbacks to traumas that I've had in my life? Which is why, again, I would like to emphasise that I know Anna Todd aimed these books at young people. I don't know the age rating for the movies apart from the first one, which I believe was a PG. It may have been a 12, I can double check that. But if you've had a traumatic childhood before the age of 18, I wouldn't recommend reading these books, especially if you've ever had to deal with things like alcoholism, domestic violence, abuse in the workplace, a violent or toxic relationship. And I'm not talking about like your first love. I mean, with Tessa and Hardin, they're not each other's first loves. They have had relationships previous to that. But when they are together, in a way, it is like their first love, because it's really pushed and tested the boundaries of their relationship. And it's helped each of them to grow in some ways, but not in others. And from past experience, it is really, really hard to sort of transition into what may perceived as being a couple, but still having the strength and the opportunities to have that time for yourself. And it's the same when you become a parent. Before I became a parent, I didn't actually realise how hard it was. And I look at my friends and I look at their families, and sometimes I think, gosh, your children are so well behaved. Why do I have children that don't listen? And they're like, oh, trust me, they don't listen, but they always seem to be the perfect little angels when I'm around. Whereas my kids, they just seem to have no filter. Maybe it's because they're boys, I don't know. But, and again, my oldest is 8, so he is kind of learning about certain things. He'll ask more questions about relationships, like why is mummy and daddy married, how a baby's made, that sort of stuff. But again, I wouldn't, if I had a 14-year-old daughter, I wouldn't want her reading this book. I wouldn't want her coming up to me and going, Mum, what does this mean? Mum, what does that mean? It's not like there's any real sexual words used in the book. There's just mainly the description of the actions. But again, some of the things Anna Todd just put in the book, unless you are of a certain age, you're not going to know the movies. You're not going to know the books that she's talking about. It's like, for some reason in the States, they have a preconceived notion of to what being British or or living in England would make you be as a human. And it's very stereotypical, some of the things that Anna Todd wrote. But then reading this, you would think that all Americans did all day was eat pizza and drink whiskey. And again, the main sort of idiosyncrasies, if that's the right word, that she uses for her characters is when they're nervous, they pick at their nails. When they're nervous, they bite their cheeks, like internally. And I always found that really weird how she sort of used the same things to describe every character. So it wasn't like, maybe not so much with Hardin. With Hardin, when he's nervous, he would touch his hair or he'd brush his hair away from his face. But again, there's so many other things that humans do when they're in an uncomfortable situation, and it would have been nice if Anna Todd had emphasised more on that, especially when she was talking about things that are so graphic at times and also very violent and disturbing. So I keep saying so a lot, so I apologise. What I will do is I will end this video here now. Thank you once again for bearing with me. I have got another 2 books to read, and what I will do is I will try to go through this book, and I believe it's from about chapter 300, 400, and just basically explain the rest of the book from where I had to continue reading it from the 17th of April, which was the end of Lent. So any videos I post now, they won't say Lent 2022. They will say after Lent 2022. And that'll be the same on any of my blogs. So please keep a lookout. And if you're happy or have any questions or queries, don't hesitate to contact me.